Well, a quick weather update as we take a look at radar. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings in place, moving northeast at 40 to 45 miles per hour. South Metro and back towards Cass and Adair County, both likely producing some smaller areas of wind and hail in this. Nothing screaming widespread threats across either of these storms. We'll continue to watch things develop over this evening. Level 3 of 5 risk on the severe weather outlook. We'll have more at 5. necessary. We do have a severe thunderstorm showing some rotation there just to the east of Montezuma, moving towards Deep River towards the east. We'll go ahead and put a scope on things here. You'll see the area of interest that we are tracking, and this is the latest update that I've seen there. Just to the south and east of Montezuma appears to be the strongest area of rotation at this time. This storm is moving to the east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour, so it won't be in the local 5 area for very long as this one continues to move off to the east towards Williamsburg and the Iowa City area. So this area we're tracking, if you are in that tornado warning in Poweshiek County, you need to seek shelter for this possible tornado. I'm going to put a track on it. First, need to update a couple of numbers. Brad, what are you seeing here with this storm?
Well, what we had really with this storm, Chris, is a very strong bow echo. So we had a segment of very strong winds here coming out of this thunderstorm. And on the northern end of that bow echo, we started to see that rotation developing. And that's why we have the tornado warning. It's radar indicated at this point, but we're going to keep an eye on it. You can see that track the storm he put on that is going to be going toward the Deep River area about 455, North English about 517, Williamsburg, of course, that's outside of our viewing area. But this is going to be just here for a few more minutes. We do expect to start the newscast at 5 o'clock. So at 5 o'clock, producers and everybody listening will probably get that news going. There's that rotation again. It's in the southeastern portion of Poweshiek County, and that is going to move off to the, is it generally moving east?
I think generally due east at this point, just based on the radar trends here that we've seen in the last few. Storms have been moving more to the north previously, but this one is, it looks like it's kind of bitten the updraft just a little bit there and turning a little bit more of an easterly jaunt. And you do see the addition of the tornado warning there. That does include extreme northern portion of Keokuk County as well.
Yeah, a little bit of Keokuk County there. And this is starting to get rain wrapped. So basically that bow echo, and it's kind of wrapping back around, so it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to see. So even spotters would have a tough time, I think, seeing this. But that rotation embedded back here just to the east of Barnes City there, and it'll be moving right along that county line, probably heading toward North English, generally speaking, it looks like, kind of riding that county line.
Yeah, just in the last radar scan too, that shear parameter just jumped off the chart as well. It does appear we finally got some of that rotation to come in and tighten on us just to the south and east of Montezuma. This is something we have been watching very closely here, Brad and myself, behind the scene. I'll actually go back in time. We'll see how this one evolved. And kind of right here between Montezuma and New Sharon, you can see it starting to peak just a little bit, but just this latest scan, it has exploded. Yeah,
that is that big, strong piece of wind pushing out of the storm, and then on the northern end of it is where the tornado could form. And certainly a lot of rotation there. We will, it's really hard to see. I'm looking, let's take a look at the debris detection, maybe if there's something there, but it's going to be hard to see for sure.
At this point, nothing showing up here, at least with this latest scan. Something no doubt we will definitely continue to keep an eye on, but that outbound wind definitely did strengthen very sharply here in that latest radar scan.
So again, heading generally toward North English, which is technically outside of our viewing area. We do watch down here into Keokuk County. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that, the northern portion of Keokuk.
Yeah, it's pretty close right along that Keokuk County line. So if you are in the northern portion of that county, please seek shelter. East at about 40 miles per hour has been the trend here. So some of the communities listed, Keswick, it will be in your area by 509, North English, just across out of Keokuk County, 521, and Parnell 527. Then we do start to get out into eastern Iowa, and that threat should be out of the local 5 area. But we're going to have to watch this one very closely here, and I'll just back up this parameter here and show you how things have evolved in that same amount of time. You'll see here that shear detection just exploded in the last 15 minutes or so, last 10 minutes just to the south and east of Montezuma. Montezuma, you're fine. You are seeing some very heavy rainfall at the moment, but the threat is southeast of town. I'd say closer to Gibson. You need to be seeking shelter anywhere north of Shear, and we are looking areas generally north of Highway 92 and south of I-80.
Now, as far as the rest of central Iowa, we are not really in a place where we're going to see severe weather. It looks like we're going to have some heavy thunderstorms here going through Oskaloosa in these areas. So southeast Iowa definitely under the gun for that threat of severe weather. and you can see this new tornado warning, Chris.
Yeah, this goes until 5:30. This one newly issued. It is radar indicated, basically right over the Albia area right now. You need to seek shelter. Ottumwa included, and this is a strong signature too. So far today it's been a slow bleed, but finally in the last 15 minutes we've gotten some of our signatures we've been waiting on. This is some good rotation showing up over Albia, so you need to be seeking shelter now. Eddyville included on down the line, Ottumwa as well. So we're looking northeastern Monroe County, northwestern Wapello County, and southeast Mahaska County. This warning does continue, it looks like, until 5:30 p.m.
And with this new warning, we're going to have to preclude the newscast for now because we do have this tornado warning, which is solidly in our viewing area. Albia, Ottumwa, of course, Ottumwa, a very large city. So this is an area that we are under the gun right now with the tornado warning. You can see the rotation, the very strong rotation here in the southeast of Montezuma there, and that is moving off to the east. Here's our new rotation near Albia, and that'll be traveling pretty much along Highway 34.
Yeah, and I would expect it to strengthen too on the next update we get there. Speaking of updates on the velocity, again, some of that rotation showing there. Not quite peaking, not bright and tight that we're looking for with those brightest greens and reds right next to each other, but I do think that rotation is a bit stronger over by Montezuma at the moment, but it's not gate to gate, so there is a couple of miles of distance between these strong inbound and outbound winds at the moment, but it's certainly picked up in intensity. Two areas we're definitely watching on the velocity picture right now, just to the east of Albia, and this is riding just north of US 34 at the moment as this continues to move to the slightly north of east with time. All right, so watching a couple of areas here, two tornado warnings as we look at the scenario. Definitely in the eastern side of the state, things have gotten its act together. Another threat that we're also watching is flash flooding. We've been seeing that along the Highway 92 corridor between Indianola, Knoxville to Pella. There have been confirmed reports of flash flooding ongoing. New tornado warning, Brad. I'll get the details up for you.
Right down here in the Centerville area. Appanoose County now under a tornado warning till 5:45, and we are going to roll the open. We're going to roll the open for the newscast at 15, but the newscast is going to become basically weather coverage. We have 3 tornado warnings, the newest one down here in Centerville. So things have really lit up here in southeast Iowa. You can see that new couplet developing here in the western part of Appanoose County, and that'll be heading on to the east. Are we going to roll the open? There we go. So, Chris, we have 3 tornado warnings right now.
Yeah, and they've all popped up in the last 15 minutes as we've gotten ready for this show. Just to the south and east of Montezuma has been the strongest area of rotation we've been watching. No confirmations of anything reaching the ground. This would be north of Gibson. You need to be in your safe spot. Anyone in this red shaded area, seek shelter. Lowest level, most interior room of your permanent structure. Permanent dwelling is the best place to be. Down into the basement, small room away from windows. East of Albia, also another area of rotation that we're tracking. And I'll put a track on this one since we haven't yet at this point, but it's moving to the east and north and east with time. You'll see the communities pop up on your screen, but not the full scope of that.
So, Lockman, the Ottumwa area, about 527. Of course, a very large city here in southeast Iowa. Chillicothe also in the path of that storm at 518. And it is still looking pretty much west to east on this storm so far.
Right along Highway 34 at this point, and then that newly issued tornado warning down into Appanoose County. This would be just to the south and east of Centerville, so you do need to be seeking shelter. Here's that area of rotation north and west of Cincinnati, down to the south, approaching Highway 5. South and east of Plano, this would be south of Lake Rathbun, moving to the east, and a slight northerly component to it at about 40 miles per hour. I'll put a track on this one as well. It would be due to be into the Centerville area as we approach 5:09. So you got about 9 minutes of lead time, get to your safe place. Continuing on into the eastern part of the county, Moulton 525, and should this continue, it'd be near Bloomfield at 545 this evening.
And I'm looking at the rotation of that northern storm. It was really the most powerful storm up here, which is going through the northern portion of Keokuk County. It still wrapped itself up, but it's not quite as tight as it once was, but there's definitely broad rotation in this area, just north of Thornburg.
No confirmation that we have seen any tornadoes at this point, but certainly some signatures we're seeing on radar that would make this look a little bit more probable. And as Brad was saying, it's not quite as potent as it was just a few minutes ago. You see that cyan and even purple color popping up, generally weakening over the last few minutes, and that's a good trend we'd like to see. That rotation is broad but still strong, and then you see those couple of other areas we're watching down towards Albia and to the south and west of Centerville. Sometimes this shear detection can be lagging a couple of minutes, so it may be a little bit further east than what's shown.
So this is going to be with us here for another probably 45 minutes or so. Then it's going to move out of the viewing area, move into far eastern Iowa. So this is basically right into the edge of the viewing area. Ottumwa, Bloomfield, Centerville, all there. Oskaloosa, you've got some heavy rain, no severe weather, but as Chris was saying, we got some flooding issues out there because you can get 2 or 3 inches of rain very quickly with these thunderstorms dropping copious amounts of rainfall earlier today and now.
Yeah, if you're expecting someone home this evening from work, do know it may take some additional time. In this swath you see along Highway 92 from Indianola to Knoxville to Pella, already 2 to 4 inches of rain has fallen, and we have heard of flash flooding ongoing in some city streets and some other low-lying areas, especially around the Pella area. So do know that there is some issues there too with flash flooding. Don't want to discount that, but the immediate threat that we do have is 3 areas of rotation, tornadic circulations from Montezuma down to the south towards Albia, and then Centerville as well.
And again, radar indicated at this point, we have not heard really one word from any chasers that are out there today, but it is really lit up here. It's really become much more organized. And what we're dealing with is kind of what happened was this whole line got organized, and then these Boeing segments started to create the rotation. So it's really become more of a formidable system right now. You can see that pocket of rotation.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's just off to the northeast of Albia right now, and that is moving off to the east as well. So a pretty good tight circulation there, and it doesn't take long that this could rotate into and produce a tornado. So that is why we were warning you in this area. The path takes it mostly to the east, maybe slightly to the north of east, but Kirkville around 518, and it looks like Hedrick around 533. So that's what we're looking at as it moves eastward.
Yeah, Chillicothe was in there as well. I'd say we'd be closer to you by about the 520 time frame as well. So definitely be seeking shelter there. Eddyville points southward as we move along Highway 163 and 63 towards Ottumwa included on that. Albia, you are out of that tornado threat. You may come out of your safe place. We're also tracking that cell into the northern portion of Keokuk County as well. Let's go ahead and sample, take a look at what we're looking at here with this one. Broad but strong circulation as this passes into Iowa County and Keokuk County, Brad?
Yeah, I think there's probably definitely some wind with this. This might be the biggest wind maker we have. I'm surprised we haven't gotten any reports yet, but certainly damaging winds are possible with this, along with that threat for the tornado. But as you said, the rotation is much broader. It's not confined. Usually, when they get really tight is what we're worried about. So we got these 3 areas, all have tornado warnings basically. Shear detection is also, you can see it as rotational movement in the air, and those are the 3 spots right now. He's got the debris detection on there. Usually if it does touch the ground, it will pick something up enough that we can see it maybe on radar, and not seeing any indication of that right now. Just
not at this time. I do think the most pinpointed couplet is northeast of Albia at the moment, extreme northeastern Monroe County. Kirkville, Chillicothe, Eddyville, all seek shelter, please. This is a decent signature here. It is on the tighter side. It's not the most robust strength that we're we're seeing, but there is gate-to-gate shear at 74 miles per hour. Certainly possibility of a tornado showing up there, even if it is of the weaker variety. 75 mile per hour winds noted gate-to-gate, meaning one of those little pixels right next to the other. That's the difference in speed and direction that we're monitoring there. So heads up into eastern Monroe County. This one due into Wapello soon. We have that strong but broad circulation heading towards the North English area out of Thornburg as well. New update on the velocity showing similar results there. Still a tighter couplet, but generally weaker than the last scan in eastern Monroe County. It was a little bit more energized in those last couple of scans, but still peaking there in that tornado warning. And then down towards Centerville, this one not near as impressive as it was when that warning was issued back towards Seymour.
So again, I think what we have to really watch is that one coming into Wapello County. If you're in Chillicothe area or west of Chillicothe, that is a stronger rotation and it is heading your direction. Right now, that trajectory would keep it north of Ottumwa. We'll keep a close eye on that, but right now it's heading toward the Chillicothe area.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and loop this circulation just so we can get a general sense. I'll slow it down for you here, Brad. So, but we can watch the trajectory.
So what we're looking at, that green is coming toward the radar, the red is going away, and the brighter colors are kind of coming together there. So it has tightened up a little bit, it has strengthened somewhat, and it is just to the west of the Chillicothe area. Kirkville also could be impacted by this storm, and what we don't want to see is that coming even tighter and getting brighter. Tighter and brighter would be bad. That could be a tornado forming. So that's what we're looking at. We're south of Oskaloosa. You're not in the warning there in Oski, but this is going to be down toward just south of Eddyville.
This tornado warning lasts until 5:30. Heads up in Eddyville. I want you in your safe place right now. This one is trying to, I think, maybe occlude and get drawn into the thunderstorm. It's already rain wrapped. That last couple of scans we saw, maybe not quite as intense as the couplet in this would be indicative of being pulled into that thunderstorm a little bit more. Hopefully it continues to weaken, but right now the threat is still there. I can't stress that enough into this tornado warning, which lasts until 5:30. This one, extreme northeastern Monroe County at the moment, towards the Eddyville area, getting into southeastern Mahaska and northwestern Wapello County at the moment. Still some strong rotation being noted up there into the Thornburg area, moving into Iowa County, pushing east.
Yeah, and the wind field is very strong here too. If you get that palette that has the strong winds, Chris, it'll show those high winds. It's a high wind palette, and you can see these pockets of really high winds. These are winds going away from the radar, and there's some pretty strong winds here back in Mahaska County, and this one just north of Sigourney.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing that, and it's associated with this quasi-bowing segment, if you will. It's definitely been absorbed into many other thunderstorms. We were kind of expecting things to be discrete initially here today, meaning more individual, but we've certainly seen a slow bleed, and it just didn't explode like what we were kind of expecting. So it took some time to get these tornado warnings out. We have them now. It has evolved more of a wind threat than a hail threat at this point. Also, those tornadoes trying to spin up along this line. So these are embedded supercells in this line trying to get going here with these tornado threats.
So again, you folks in Centerville, in Appanoose County, you are in the path. Also into the Chillicothe area in Wapello County, you're in the path of these storms coming in. The one to the north is probably not as tornadic, but it certainly has a lot of wind with it, but the rotation has not gotten weaker. But the wind is still very strong there in the Keswick area, North English, but that's kind of moving out of our viewing area. But
here's the latest scan on the velocity. I have it overlaid with the reflectivity, and it has definitely weakened some. That's a good trend. I'm backing it up.
You can see right there, that's pretty bright, close to close, gate to gate, and then it kind of spread out a little bit more, not as bright, so that's good news.
Good trend. Yeah,
good trend there, and of course, some of these get rain wrapped, and that usually hurts them a little bit. You can see a little notch there south of Sigourney. We'll have to watch that, but this is the area just west of North English. There's some rotation there, but all these little segments you have to watch. I mean, this is where we can get a tornado to spin up pretty quickly. And again, we're going to be with this for maybe another 30 minutes. It's going to move eastward through Ottumwa and through Centerville, Bloomfield. It's going to move through our viewing area here in about 40 minutes.
30 minutes ago, we only had one warning as far as severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning, but it's certainly exploded. All along this line, we're going to watch for those pockets of some wind, and now the circulation. The strongest wind showing up there over Mahaska County. I do have the wind gusts. I'll go ahead and pull these up. It takes a minute for them to pull up. We'll see if we've seen anything at the radar sites. I do know we had a history in New Sharon of 45 miles per hour, so that's getting up there into that territory we want to recognize. Looks like getting out of the area 35 miles per hour south of Vinton.
Yeah, and maybe there's not too many sites here in this particular area, it doesn't look like, Chris, that are sampling that storm. But it is packing a punch. Wind primarily with the threat of these tornadoes developing along some of these bowing segments. And the rotation continues to be fairly strong in a couple of these storms. And again, it's going to be northeast or northwest of Ottumwa. That's one of the storms. And then the other one up also in Appanoose County.
Yeah, they're all rain wrapped too, folks. So you're not going to be able to see anything as far as a funnel reaching down to the ground. That's just not going to be happening in this scenario that we have here for today. I do think there are some notches along this line that we do need to pay attention to. At this point, the ones we've been watching moving into Mahaska County near Chillicothe and Eddyville, that is just not near as intense as it has been in the last 15 minutes. That's a good trend. We want to continue to see that. Centerville, the initial circulation we were watching down by you has certainly washed out, but I do believe there may be kind of a second one just to the south and west of town. It's pretty weak at this juncture, but all good trends happening at this point with why these tornado warnings were issued up into northern Keokuk County, getting into Iowa County. I do think the threat is more so north of the county line there and therefore out of the local 5 area. But that's broad and tight and certainly some wind that we're tracking all along this line. We'll watch for those little nooks to try to develop and perhaps another little one closer to Chillicothe as that first one occludes. Yeah,
overall, I'm just kind of looking at the radar as you were telling everybody about this, Chris. It's improved. I mean, I'm really glad of what I'm seeing here as they're kind of congealing and forming that line. They gave us a pretty good punch there, and now it looks like they've washed out a little bit. But again, these little areas that Chris was talking about, I got to watch the notch there south of Sigourney if something spins up. But this is going to be right in here. You can see these little notches and areas of kind of a weak bounded echo. But we're going to see this moving into Ottumwa. At least a big storm. At least a big storm is going to come into Ottumwa. So prepare yourselves for that. Heavy rain, some gusty winds, and the possibility of a tornado still exists.
That tornado warning into Monroe, Mahaska, and Wapello counties has been canceled. So we're out of the threat of that one. As that original circulation that we were telling you about kind of occluded and got brought up into the thunderstorm, less favorable environment for that to sustain itself. So we've seen that trend come to fruition in the official cancellation of that warning. Not saying it's going to happen down here in Appanoose County, but this one does continue until 5:45. The circulation with it that originally caused this warning is just no longer quite as potent. There is some small and broad rotation down there southwest of Centerville, but the original circulation has completely washed out. All along this line, be prepared for some pockets of 60-mile-per-hour wind. I don't think it's happening on a widespread level, even though these warnings are interconnected. It's just not quite developed to that kind of place at this point. Still, some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts look possible in this line. I just don't think it's widespread from I-80 down to the Missouri line. Definitely looks like the healthiest storm in this respect is up there east of Oskaloosa into Mahaska County, getting into Keokuk County with those strongest winds.
Yeah, and we're still watching, again, the wind threat. I think is probably the greatest threat right now with the possibility of a tornado with some of these cells that continue to move eastward. And again, they're moving at a pretty good pace. Let's see what the last report was there out of the Keokuk area. It's east at 35. and wind gusts of 60 miles per hour, and also those possible tornadoes that could be developing. And again, the metro central Iowa, we are in the clear as far as severe weather goes. Something might develop later, a shower or a thunderstorm, but I'm just really not expecting any other severe weather except for southeast Iowa. And this is only going to be a few more minutes, 15, 20 more minutes, and it's going to continue to move eastward and hopefully out of our area.
I like the way things have been progressing on the flash flooding scene too. Now we do have 2 flash flood warnings, and there are impacts. I will say in Pella, there's numerous intersections that are flooded at this point. Please do not drive through flooded areas. It is just not safe. But watch what happened there under those green warnings. We kind of had a trailing line. And that's weekend. That's good news. Everything oriented north and south will mean things are more progressive. It's when we start to see those kinks in the line turn east and west, and that's where we'll have a flash flooding risk. So I don't envision that we'll get another one in the local 5 area with quite such impact as what's being seen at this point as these storms continue to be oriented north to south. And thankfully, this is over southeastern Iowa versus northwestern Iowa, where this would be a whole different can of worms. There are some general showers and thunderstorms that extend further into northern Iowa and northeastern Iowa. But right now, we're looking at the greatest risk being these individual thunderstorms and the flash flooding that has been caused by them further to the west towards Pella, Knoxville, and Indianola.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at the radar, I see the most significant one around the Sigourney area. It is basically that North English, South English, and bringing in that strong wind into that area. And it'd be just from Sigourney northward, Boeing segment there. So probably some gusty winds at the very least coming into this area. So north of Sigourney, and some of those winds certainly could gust to 60 miles per hour. And this would be the strongest part of the storm here and moving off to the east. And you can see as we get further from the radar, harder to see, but we're not picking up any strong winds around Ottumwa. But still, that thunderstorm is coming into Ottumwa as we speak, and certainly heavy rain and gusty winds are going to be coming with it.
Yeah, we sampled the wind there. It showed 74 miles per hour.
Wow.
That's up in the thunderstorm. And as Brad said, we move further away from the radar. You start sampling higher up in the thunderstorm physically. So it becomes more difficult to bring those strongest winds that we just sampled all the way to the surface. But should it happen, it's likely there to happen based on how this thunderstorm looks and the signatures that we're seeing on the velocity. Speaking of velocity, let's go back to it down into the Centerville area. Not screaming, just a little bit south of town, though. There is a bit of a circulation kind of basically right over town, if you beg my pardon. Looking at that moving to the east, generally at about 40 miles per hour, but it is weak, Brad.
Yeah, it is weak, and it's not really sustained in the higher levels. There's a little bit of low level. So it's something we're going to keep the warning for. That warning's till 5:45, so a little longer there in Appanoose County. But I think once that warning goes away, hopefully we can get back to normal programming. We'll see how it goes here, but that warning is set to go till 5:45 again for Appanoose County. Tornado warning there. There is some rotation. Also the northern portion of Keokuk County, but that's I'm not sure if that's going to ever do anything. It's very broad.
Very broad, very strong, and definitely rain wrapped too. So we're not going to see this one as you maybe try to head outside and see it. The green areas are moving to the east at this point, and that red is back to the west. It's happening over the scale of, gosh, as we look at this here, 7 or 8 miles. So again, very broad. This is a thunderstorm scale circulation, meaning the whole thunderstorm is kind of circling around on itself. Pinpoint could drop a tornado. This signature likely at this point, while it is possible, we are sampling very high, it's not quite the greatest to be seeing that.
Yeah. So we are continuing our coverage here on Local 5. We've got a tornado watch for southeast Iowa, a couple of tornado warnings, a couple of flooding. We've had cars stalled out in Pella. Reported to be stalled in Pella because of street flooding there. So not a good night to be out in these storms in southeast Iowa. Here in the metro, though, we kind of got got through it early. It wasn't too bad. We did have a warning here earlier, but nothing came of that warning. So we've came through unscathed pretty much in Polk County.
4 inches of rain being reported in Indianola and cars being stranded in Pella. I'd say anywhere between these two communities. There's likely some flash flooding ongoing and some rapid rises in low-lying areas. So keep that in mind, especially if you're expecting maybe a loved one home from work. May have to find a different way. And if you do plan on traveling, please stay out of those flooded areas. It may look okay to try to drive through, but you don't always necessarily know if, one, that road is still there, or just how deep that water actually will be, and it could overcome and succumb your vehicle as you try to drive through that. So as always, stay out of those flooded areas. That is a big issue that we're seeing. We'll go to those radar estimates that we've seen over the last 6 hours, and I'll say getting close to 4 inches in Indianola would match up very closely to kind of that brightest dot denoting 3.8 inches of rain just southwest of Indianola and all along the Highway 92 corridor, and points northwards even closer to I-80. There's going to be spots that have seen 2 or 3 inches of rainfall in here, perhaps just a little bit above in some locations. So over Pella, that last sample at 2.8, seeing some poor drainage in town and even out of town. That could also be an issue as well, with some rapid rises on some low-lying areas, streams, and even rivers. This can jump upwards on. So heads up for that. Still carrying 2 tornado warnings, though I'll tell you, each of them not the most promising at this point. Stay calm, stay in the low levels. That's the best place to be. That latest circulation in Centerville is still really quite weak. And then Broad and strong, but again, this is on several miles scale in northern Keokuk and southern Iowa County.
And you know, another thing, looking at Appanoose County and Centerville area, we do have a rotation in that area in Centerville. However, the rotation we can see with the radar, because of the curvature of the earth, it is still about 8,000 feet in the air. So, you know, at least 7,000 feet in the air is what we can see. And there is a brief or weak rotation. You see he's put on the tracks here, and you see how strong they were. This kind of peaked, you know, it started about an hour ago, and it's been weakening since that point. But we've had some pretty strong tracks here of some rotation coming through these with these 3 different tornado warnings. And this one was perhaps the strongest up here in just south of Montezuma.
And all of them have generally weakened. So they were bright closer to a half hour ago. And now as we pull to current, I'll transition to the current view. We don't have very much left. So we are continuing to track this. My overall confidence that there would be a tornado on the ground in any of these areas that we just highlighted with shear tracks is rather low at this point. It's not 0, but it is low. Continue to be in your safe place in these red polygons shown here, those tornado warnings over Appanoose County, and then the extreme northeastern portion of Keokuk County. And you will be safe as we get through this.
And that new warning's been issued now for Ottumwa down into Bloomfield. So these 2 counties have been added here, Wapello County and also down into Davis County. So Davis, Wapello, you're in a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning. But, you know, we'll keep an eye out for any rotation. But right now it looks like wind is moving in. That's the primary concern coming into Wapello and Ottumwa.
You can see that storm scale rotation coming in, spinning over North English there. So that is kind of indicative of trying to bow out as that spin happens. We do see that little appendage that's sticking out ahead of the rest, extreme northeastern Keokuk County, north of Keota. And again, that lines up with where we are sampling the strongest winds in this storm. We'll put on the high wind tracker here and shift a little bit westward, and you see the stronger winds south of North English, northeast of Sigourney at the moment, and northwest of Keota. And keep in mind, we're sampling pretty high, but this is where we would find those strongest winds in the thunderstorms. I do think there's some isolated pockets trailing down to the south, but I don't think it's warned along the entire line here. There will be some pockets in there, but right now, especially over Keokuk, Mahaska County is where the strongest winds are.
Yeah, nothing's jumping out at me. That warning to the north, you know, the South English, North English area, northern Keokuk County. That is going to expire at 5:30. We'll see if they reissue it or not, but it's going to be moving out of our viewing area either way. But that, again, is a broad rotation, and it goes until 5:30. The other warning, the other tornado warning goes till 5:45 in Appanoose County. And again, it's weakened quite a bit, Chris. I wouldn't be surprised if they even cancel that earlier. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. A lot of that has really washed out at this juncture, perhaps something trying to get going there. Further embedded into the cell back into the southwest portion of Keokuk County, but that's not prime placement to continue to evolve. This whole line now is worn from I-80 all the way trailing back to getting close to the St. Joseph, Missouri area. So this is into northern Missouri as well. And again, that area that turns kind of east-west, I would watch for flash flooding, though that is to the south of the local 5 area. There's some pockets of some damaging wind and some circulations that we'll continue to watch.
And Ottumwa, you have it. The thunderstorm is coming right in now to the west side of Ottumwa, and it doesn't look like it's packing a big punch for Ottumwa, but I'm sure there's some gusty winds, some heavy downpours coming into the Ottumwa area. The bigger punch is probably up here with the nose of that bow echo, but still some strong winds all along this line, and it's moving off to the east at about 35 miles per hour. So coming into Ottumwa now, Agency about 5:37, Bloomfield 5:43, and then heading toward Fairfield at 6 o'clock or so.
Yeah, seeing the county seats popping up here in those estimated times, you know your proximity to some of those larger communities. So kind of do your interpretation of the times as we move in between there. We just put out a track over a very large area, but that is kind of the leading edge of the storm. The strongest winds may be tailing into it just a little bit based on when we pull out the velocity scope and put it in on this. Strongest winds are peaking over Keokuk County at the moment as that one pushes into Sigourney. I do believe the tornadic circulation is now really pushing out of the local 5 area, perhaps still just barely clutching onto the northeastern part of that county. And frankly, at the moment, I'm just not impressed down into Appanoose County.
No, and more good news here from the National Weather Service. They're going to cancel the flood watch for much of central Iowa, including Polk County, because we're not expecting any more heavy rain tonight. So that's good news there. But of course, as Chris was showing you, some of that heavy rain south of the metro has been pretty intense, and those flash flood warnings do continue, but the flood watch has been canceled. There's that estimated heavy rain. And like Chris was saying, it was pretty much spot on as far as the estimations, right, Chris?
Yeah, and we were kind of looking for streaks of 1 to 3 inches of rain today. Now, we've exceeded that a little bit up towards 4 inches, but right in there, just north of Highway 92 and along it, kind of stretching from Winterset through Indianola, Knoxville, Pella, and up towards Montezuma. That's where the heaviest rain has fallen. Thankfully, things are more progressive now, so I don't expect to see another one of those east-west segments really taking hold. Perhaps there's a little bit down there in extreme southern Appanoose County and Wayne County that we'd need to watch as well. But at least for now, in those flash flood warnings, the rain is exiting. There's no longer significant heavy rainfall in these areas. Now congealing into a line, this becomes more of a damaging wind threat overall as this one continues to exit south and east out of the local 5 area. For now, we're watching extreme southeastern Iowa, I'd say for the next hour, and then this one is done out of the local 5 area. Now, I will say, it doesn't mean we're all clear, but we haven't seen a lot of reports coming in, so that means we're not seeing things on a widespread level. If we were, and this is pertaining to tornadoes, wind, and hail, if we were, we would have heard about that by now, but still some spots will be possible along this line. It's not to say it can't happen either in the next hour, but so far things have been quiet in the reports department.
It's always good news when there is no news. That's basically what we're saying, is all the spotters and all the chasers. No one has reported really much of anything out there, wind damage or otherwise. Mostly flooding has been our concern out there. So what I'm tempted to do here, Chris, is go back to programming, go back to World News Tonight, and we will, of course, watch it very closely here at Local 5 if anything changes or anything looks severe. But it is coming through Ottumwa now. You have a severe thunderstorm warning there. We'll continue to watch that. You got heavy rain coming down. And Centerville, same story there. That tornado warning is going to expire soon, and things are going to be continuing to move eastward out of the viewing area here. So we're going to get back, and there's that flood watch if we want to put that up. But that flood watch is, I actually saw it on the other the computer, I'm sorry. But yeah, there's the tornado watch. That's going to get shaved away. But we are going to continue to monitor things as we go through the evening hours, and we'll keep an eye on things here at Local 5. But thanks for watching us, and we'll go now to ABC and World News Tonight.